Hello everyone, welcome to the Pisces Guide to Pop Culture. I'm of course your host TJ, coming to you today to talk about the Pitt, the acclaimed series from HBO Max, which ended its first season a few months ago, but I'm just now getting around to viewing it and reviewing it here at the Pisces Guide. Not to admit that I'm not much of a fan of medical dramas. I don't have anything against them, but it's just not my particularly favorite genre. I'm not a Grey's Anatomy fan or anything like that, but I understand that it is an important genre and it's an important part of our TV landscape, which is why I decided to watch it. That, sometimes I like to stay abreast of what's happening in the world. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, it basically takes place in this fictional trauma center in Pittsburgh, which is near where I grew up, in the northern panhandle of West Virginia. Focuses on the doctors and nurses during one very eventful and deeply tragic shift at the emergency center, sort of focusing not just on their personal struggles, that is a part of it, but it's mostly about what is it that makes the life of an emergency room doctor and nurse so incredibly stressful. And it is very effective in that regard. So we know the whole season basically takes place over the course of, 8, 9, 10 hours. And it's anchored by some really terrific performances and some very, very good TV writing. Now, I think Noah Wilde deserves a lot of the credit for Dr. Robbie. He's the sort of overall doctor who's in charge, but many other extraordinary members of the cast also deserve all the praise and all the adoration they've got. It deserves all of the Emmy noms that it has gotten, and I think it deserves all the noms it's going to get. What I appreciate about The Pitt is the extent to which it really is kind of grounded in the medicine of it all. It's been gotten a lot of acclaim for its attention to medical accuracy, not always the case with medical dramas. But it really kind of immerses you in the midst of this very high stakes, very high pressure environment. While also, all the characters have their own issues, their own hang-ups and so forth. Santos is a bit of a dick, but she also has her own troubled history. Whitaker also has his own things. Giovanni has her own things. Everybody has their own storylines, their own things that they have to deal with. And I really think that that's a good thing. And I think that this show has a good balance between its personal dramas that unfold and the sort of medical emergencies that they face. I will admit that I cried a lot. That goes without saying, probably. This is the Pisces Guide to Pop Culture, and if we Pisces are known for anything, it's crying and get emotional. But I don't think anybody could watch this show and not feel tremendously emotional. There's a scene very early, the front half of the season, where this middle-aged couple are contending with their father who's dying of pneumonia and dementia. And as someone whose grandfather had dementia, it just hit really strongly. And Dr. Robbie himself is contending with trauma from his time serving in the ICU during COVID. And so that also is really triggering for me because my grandmother died. And I don't use that term lightly, but it's very triggering for me because my grandmother died of COVID. Anyway, the long and short of it is that this is a very emotional show, but that's why I love it. I love shows that make me feel things, that make me think things, that really sort of help us see just how much those in the medical profession give of themselves to make us healthier, often with little or no gratitude, and in fact sometimes the opposite of gratitude. There's a scene where the lead nurse, whose name is Dana, gets punched by a disgruntled patient, and it's really kind of just devastating because we've seen how much she is invested in this ER and in making everyone's lives better. So it's really quite shattering for her, and it's shattering for us. And, the doctors also have to contend with a little staffing. There's a mass shooting that happens in the back half of the season. It's a lot going on, and it's really quite, it's just the peak of really good TV drama. I binged it, so I know it was released on a more traditional TV schedule, which I think is the way to watch a show like this. But I do think that binging it really kind of gives you the whole overwhelming emotional impact of it all. It hits you like a sledgehammer. I'm not exaggerating. And for me, that's a good thing. I like shows that are just sort of, gripping and that kind of hold you. I use the word compelling a lot, and I think that I use that deliberately because compelling implies a sort of physical reaction, a physical draw that just kind of grabs hold of you and pulls you in. And to me, that's the power of any kind of visual media, or for that matter, any narrative or documentary. That's the power of good writing and good performance and good production, whether it's in the visual form of film and TV, whether it's radio or music, whether it's books. Those, things like the Pit are why I think why storytelling, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, really matter, and why that's something that I think really connects us to who we are. And the fact that it's a medical drama and the stakes are so inherently high, I think adds an extra layer of poignancy to the whole thing. So suffice it to say that I was really blown away by this show. I did not expect to be so impacted by it, but it really held me from the first season until the last, and I'm obviously very happy that it's gotten a second season. I think that it will go down as being one of the greatest shows of this decade, perhaps even of the 21st century. I mean, who knows, if we're even going to be here at the end of it, but I don't want to get that myself. But I do think that it's extraordinary. It's really the kind of show that I can praise wholeheartedly, and that I just think is terrific, and just terrific TV storytelling. So it definitely gets the Pisces Guide seal of approval. It probably goes without saying. So anyway, that's what I have for my take on the Pit. If you want to hear more about my thoughts, I do have a newsletter where I've written about it more extensively. That is for paid subscribers, so head on over to omnivorous.substack.com if you want to hear more about it. If not, you can always, subscribe to my here at TikTok. I also talk about it on YouTube, so wherever you want to, hear my ramblings about this stuff. Anyway, great show. Go watch the Pit. It's fantastic. So, as always, for the Pisces Guide to Pop Culture, I'm your host, TJ. Take care, y'all.